We're going to party like it's your we're going to party like it's your birthday. It's David's birthday. Oh,
It's not my birthday. I promise.
David.
It's not my birthday.
Hit it, Dave. Go. Give it the intro.
All
Let's hear it.
right. Skip it, rip, rip, here we are. Click, click, clean breakthrough. Coming at you live from Greenville Transitions. How we doing today, boys?
We just curing people, dude. We saving lives left and right over here, dude. We just having good conversations, helping people out. Isn't that right, Lucas?
We're thriving.
We're thriving.
Yeah, well, let's hope it continues. We've got quite the weekend in store, it looks like, with a another winter storm.
This is how we know. This is how we know you ain't getting out enough, dude. You went to weather conversation like that. That's scary, man. We got to get you out of that house. What is happening? Yeah, we got
now the storm has a name.
What? What's the name of this one?
I want to say it's like Gianna or something.
Good Italian food. Gianna, shout out. Good Italian food, downtown Greenville, South Carolina. Whew, so good.
Gotta love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into it. We got a good podcast episode coming to you today, because we have had a fan reach out and ask a question.
The fan.
So
not a fan. One fan.
Yeah,
no, we got two.
Oh, there are two. Oh, one of us two. Okay.
So it's not a question. She proposed a topic. So I'm just going to read it out, and then we can just get into it. All right. Here we go. It says, and this one's geared more towards our program, Greenville Transitions, more specifically the sober living side, where a young man is coming to live in the house and participate in all of our clinical programming. But it says, what about when the guy leaves GT, as in they graduate? It is a completely different dynamic. As a mom, you really have to implement everything you have learned. You have so much gratitude for what GT has done. However, your contact with Greenville Transitions decreases once your son is out. It's all because of a good outcome. Son is sober, son has graduated from the program, but it is still a very, very different dynamic.
All right. Where do we start with this one, fellas? Do we want to talk about the two different dynamics? Do we want to, what do you think? Where do you want to start with it?
I think it'd be good to start with just talking about the responsibility that Greenville Transition takes on once the son comes to us. Start there, and then that can lead into like what responsibilities may fall back on the parent once a graduation has taken place, or once they're moving into an apartment or back home, whatever that may look like.
Yeah.
Or did you have a different direction?
I like that. I think that's good.
Lucas? The only thing I'd say before that is just shining a light that before a guy and a family comes to GT, there's normally a lot of discord. Communication isn't great. Relationships are strained. There's difficulty in having tough conversations, and that could be on the parent side. That could be on the guy we work with side. It could be both sides. Really, it's normally what it is. And so that's kind of the starting point, that then someone's coming into GT. And so then I think moving along, we come in, someone comes to GT and they get, the parents get a therapist and the guy gets a therapist, and we get to work. But largely we take over a lot of those difficult conversations, a lot of those difficult boundaries, which makes sense. That's why we exist, because parents can't turn their house into a sober living and monitor AA meetings and administer drug tests or medications and have good, feedback and coaching all the time.
Yeah. Be a therapist,
be an investigator, be a recovery coach, make sure what they're saying is accurate. I guess not to say they can't do that. They maybe could, but it'd be really hard to do that. Work a job, maintain a marriage, raise other kids, pay a mortgage, do everything else in life.
And just be a parent.
Yeah. And so I think that's where we step in to take a lot of those things off their plate and kind of turnkey, start that operation of kind of running all those things that I said, making sure there's accountability with drug tests, with therapy, difficult conversations, supportive conversations, help, advice. I mean, there's just a lot to it.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I was just going to say, thinking through all of those roles you just named, it takes a village to get someone who's in active addiction, whose life is truly like unmanageable, it's chaotic. It takes a village to get them back on course. And then there's a reason that mom and dad called us in the first place. It's like, hey, we don't even know where to begin. This is completely unmanageable. Use your village, get our son back on course. And then that is super scary toward the end and graduation, and that village is kind of tapering off a little bit. And hopefully life is not as chaotic, conversations are not as chaotic, but more of that responsibility falls back on the family to kind of take over those different roles of recovery coach, counselor, sponsor, recovery community.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's staggered in a way of which, like, when somebody comes in, like one of our guys in our sober living, there's a lot of contact at first with the therapist, with the coaches, and the families same way. But as the months go by, the contact lessens, and it's time to put into practice the things that have been being discussed for hours upon hours on end. And I don't know if we need to get like a rundown of the specifics of what we do or not, but
I like to just describe it as a seesaw of, like, when a guy comes to Greenville Transitions, we start out seesaws up here, this end, and it's heavy clinical. There's a ton of clinical support going on. There's a ton of like recovery coaching support, tracking their every move, where they're going, where they're shopping. And then as they move through the months in Greenville Transitions, that's slowly going to taper down. And the other side of that seesaw is real world experiences. So we're picking up different relationships and school and work and driving a car again and paying for my auto insurance. And like, in the beginning, we're taking as much stress away and just surrounding them with clinical. And then toward the end, we're tapering down clinical and giving them some of those stressors of the real world, and see how you handle that and make sure you're handling it appropriately and not turning it back to what was your safe place of drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that, at first there's a lot of structure and proactivity, like, hey, you're going to 2 groups a day. Families, you need to be meeting with the family therapist once a week, going to family group once a week, doing all of those things. And then as the time goes on, it gets more reactive care. I mean, Lucas and I just spent like an hour and a half with one of our guys today who's like pretty far along in the program, but he just has some stuff come up. So we're spending a long time like taking care of him today and like having conversation, but it's more like a reactive place, as things come up. So I think the other part of it too is like just the coaching of both the guys and the parents, like how to handle the challenges that come up. It makes me think of the difference between being a really good teacher in college, or in high school. Can you teach someone how to think, or can you teach somebody just the facts so they can regurgitate it on a test? We're trying to teach people how to think, right? Like, when a problem comes up, how do you think critically? How do you lean on the things that work for you, and then like go do that? Like that is the point of all this. And it goes quick, man. Like, it goes really quick. Like, it feels long. It's like having a kid, like they say, like the days are long and the years are short. That's how it is in GT. Like you come in as a 7-month program, but then before you know it, like you're already halfway through. Before you know it, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, man, where did that go? So really making sure you're paying attention during all that. Especially for our guys. I feel like our parents, just from a motivation standpoint, tend to be really locked in. Our guys are a little bit different place, like neurochemically, right? And motivation wise. So it's a little different for them, I would say.
Yeah, I would say a big crutch for the families while they're in Greenville Transitions. And it's something we want. I think we ask this a lot. But when there is conflict, when there is confrontation, the son is calling the mom or calling the dad, making demands or asking for things, to say, go talk to Lucas about that. That's what the parent has to say. Go talk to Lucas about that. Go talk to Cole about that. Go talk to David or Scott, or like, but to push them back to someone in the program who's in the day-to-day with them. So it takes a lot of that weight off of the parents' shoulders. And not having to resolve those conflicts.
100%. Like, when I think about when I think about just being like a grown up, like being in college or jobs I worked at, my mom and dad didn't know who my bosses were. You know what I mean? Like my mom has only met y'all like in passing, right? Like I don't know if you guys ever even met my dad. Like it's not like like calling my mom and dad like, "Hey, you need to talk to David. He really upset me. You know, like I can't believe he did that to me at the staff meeting today." It's like no, like Cole, go handle your stuff. You know what I mean? And that was taught, right? Like that was taught over years when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, right? And I was fortunate I didn't have an addiction. So it went at a fairly like normal line, I would say, I guess normal, whatever that is. But in like, you know, addiction is really easy to like come to your parents with problems, right? And that is something I was challenging a lot of our guys on lately. Like when you call your parents, I want you asking for connection and trying to seek out connection with them and coming to them with solutions. But if you're going to your parents and it's all about, hey, Mr. Wilson, if you're going to
He
your
never
parents,
comes up here.
I
Rare
love these.
sighting.
I know it is. Look at him, just good boy. That's a good boy right there. Coming to their parents with problems, you know, and very much me centric narratives and conversations like that. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do here. We want them to figure out a way to solve their own problems in a healthy way. You know?
Yeah.
What do you think, Lucas?
Yeah, Lucas, we haven't heard your voice in a while.
Man, we just yapping
We
here.
steamrolled it.
It's all good. That's all good stuff. I totally agree. I always think about the parallel that parents and guys get on in the process and the journey and how parallel it is. And I think, you know, there's a pink cloud in early recovery where everything's clicking and it's working well and I think there's kind of a pink cloud for parents specifically in like a GT experience where if you were worrying about when you're going to get the call that your son passed or a call from jail or the call from the job or that he got fired or he got kicked out of his apartment or whatever, there's a great sense of relief when a guy comes to sober living and enters into recovery. And you know that, I guess, the sober living could call, and that's why I never call without it being scheduled, because I know that unscheduled call is like, oh my gosh, something happened. It's terrible. My first thing is always like, everything's totally fine. He's safe and good. And I'm just calling you about a totally minor thing to do with like an insurance billing number or, you know, a medication of his or whatever. But I think largely a lot of that anxiety is taken off and there kind of is this pink cloud of like, okay, they're handling it. But then there is the reality that comes back of like, well, at some point we're going to, like, this guy's going to come back to you and back into your life where there's not going to be a GT to have these tough conversations. And you're going to have to know how to respond to them, even initiate them, whatever it may be. And at the same time, we're trying to get this guy to a place where he's not calling mom for the rescue and the bailout and save my problems, whatever. So we're hoping that both working on both sides is going to fix. But I think more often than not, when it gets to the end of it, a little bit's still going to pop up for the guy. When things get really hard or really tough or they're really pushed, there's going to be just the old habits die hard of like, well, let me call mom and see if she'll pay my rent this month or bail me out or whatever. And so that's why it's that important for the parents to be practicing that along the way and not kind of resting on their laurels with GT doing it, so that when the day comes that they do have to take the reins back, they're ready, they're confident, they're capable, and they're like, I know how to do this. Because I've been practicing this at GT of saying, hey, you know, I don't know, maybe you call your sponsor about it. Maybe you call a friend in the program. Maybe you give Lucas, Cole, or David a call and see what they think. Even though you've left GT, you know, that's fine. But that they're ready to do that and know how to do that. Because I think when guys come in, we can kind of either see it go two ways. One, you know, parents can be, one extreme is parents can be super enmeshed and they're just, you know, constantly talking to their son about every problem that's going on. And the other one is we sometimes get the guys where they're like, I'm not talking to my mom. And then the parents are like, well, I need to talk to him. And so then we're just kind of in between, saying like relaying a message from mom or dad to the guy and then a message from the guy back to mom or dad. And that's not going to work when they leave the program. So we've got to like bridge that gap and figure that out. And that just takes time and work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This makes me think about just doing reps after rep after rep. Like the days add up, but it's what you're doing with the days, you know? And that's a big part of it for the family. Like if you're able to do that in a somewhat easy system, right? Where their therapists around this guy, when there's 24/7 recovery coaching like around him, hold the line then. And it's just that much easier than when it gets tough, right? Like it makes me think of like training for anything, right? Like that's why they do trainings when you go to work. Like how do you deal with the disgruntled customers? That's why they do training for any type of sport or like martial arts. Like you want the pressure to happen incrementally in the practice and the training. So then when the real moment comes, it's like second nature. And it is going to feel a little weird. There's going to be that like tendency to go back to old habits, but then your logic will kick on, hopefully for both sides of like, okay, hang on, I got this. I can solve this. I can do this, Yeah,
I think it's also natural to just avoid what you're not good at or things that aren't comfortable, and so if you have a GT that can kind of take over these tough conversations, hold these tough boundaries, it's like, I'm paying them to do that, and I want to get my full squeeze of that while I can, so I get some relief. But then it's hard to figure out, like, where do you step back in? It's like that question of like, where does your neck end and your head start? It's like there's no exact line. And so then you're thinking like, I'll push it another day. I'll let GT have this one. Okay, another big thing happened. He got fired from his job. Y'all handle that. I'm not trying to get in the middle of it. So it's just so easy. You see how it happens. It's the same thing of I'll get sober tomorrow. I'll get sober next week. Okay, after this big thing. Oh, this will be the time to do it. Like it's just human nature to do that. So it's no fault of the parents. And it is easier for us to let us do it because A, we're not their parents, the guys we're working with. So it's easier for us to be objective and have tough conversations. And then B, we have just a ton of practice with it. Yep. So that makes it easier. It doesn't always make it enjoyable, but it does make it a little easier and you're a little more confident doing it.
And we went through it ourselves.
It's
the bullshitter can call bullshit.
Think for yourself, dude.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Cole's not there.
We do have one normie on here.
Yet.
Loser.
Cole's not there yet. That'd be rough, dude. That'd be rough. Like a 40-something-year-old guy all of a sudden, like therapist too. Ooh, that'd be
yeah,
a lot to lose.
Yep. Yeah. I'm sure the story is out there though.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Whole secret addict. We all know.
Yeah. It's tough to leave the nest, It's tough for even when the guy's getting ready to leave our program, you're kind of telling the family like, hey, they got to flee the nest at some point. And then it's tough for the family too. The family kind of flees the nest. Even though we still have the family support group that if you have been through GT, that is available to you all the time, anytime.
Yep. Oh, not anytime. When they have it, which is once a
week.
When
they have to, once a week.
on Monday.
Yes. Any day, anytime, whenever.
You know what you do have
Use
access to?
Use the Google Meet link.
You know what you do have access to? Any day, anytime. The Clean Breakthrough podcast found on YouTube, powered by Greenville Transition, 24/7, available for everybody, everywhere, all the time. Come on now.
What a plug, Cole. Gosh.
Get him. Yeah. And the hope is too, you're also developing relationships along the way. I noticed for the guys specifically of, hey, like this sponsor you have, like this is going to be like an asset for you in the days to come. Like this buddy you met who knows your story at the gym we go to, this is an asset for days to come. Like we want them to start building that as they're going through here. And even the relationship to their therapist. Like I'm fortunate to still have like really close relationship with some of the guys who've gone through this program and like still feel really like comfortable, cool talking to them. If they have something come up, like I'm happy to like chat it out from more of almost like a friend standpoint at this stage in the game. So all that to say, like the hope is during that time you are like leaning on GT so you can like freaking recover from the trauma you've been through for the last like several years, usually before you get here, because there's been so much like fear and worry and anxiety. But you're also cultivating new relationships as you go through it, because we can't do it alone.
Yeah, and I think that's easy to talk about with the guys. Like it just makes a lot of sense, and it's what we talk about all the time. I think that it's maybe a little bit more difficult for the families and the parents to figure out like some type of 12-step support group, other parents that are going through the same thing that can relate to your struggles, other resources, their own therapist for after GT that should probably continue for their own help and wellness rather than just relating to their son. Because what I've seen with families a lot, and really just any loved one, especially lately in my own life and kind of surroundings, is that it's really easy to do a lot in times of crisis. And whether that's the addict alcoholic, they get the DUI, they're in jail, I'll do anything. But you get 7 days later and the willingness really dies off. And I'll find with even like the most stubborn parents, wives, husbands, whatever, that are like, they're not an addict, whatever. The crazy crisis happens and they're like, I'll do anything. I'll send them anywhere. I'll hold the line. I'll do this. But then 7 days later, they're like, are they that bad? Maybe it would be better if they came home. I don't know. You know, they just soften. And that's another, just in my opinion, human nature thing. I think it just is what it is. We're very motivated in crisis, but it can die off quick. But I think if we can have, this always stuck with me that I heard kind of in early recovery, if we can have like half the tenacity that we have in that moment of crisis, like to sustain and carry on, there's a really not anything we can't figure out and continue to maintain success with. But the reality, to me, what I see a lot is that it almost completely dies off. It goes from like 100% down to like 1%. And it's like, well, he's doing better. And so now I don't need to go see a therapist. Now I don't need to go to a 12-step group. Now I don't need to find other parents because he's all good. And now I can kind of put that in a little box in my head that it's all checked off and it's fine. And again, I think addicts, alcoholics do the same thing in their own way of like, I don't need to go to 12-step and those people and whatever, because I got the job, I got the girlfriend, I got the car, got 6 months sober. So I'm good now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that's interesting, like, I think once you made, like, everything you described is like a normal part of change, right? Like bargaining, you know, like we do that with everything. You know, I want to get in better shape. I'll start running, and I ran once. I feel like I'm okay. Okay, well, I got to run more than that. Okay, I want to get in better shape. I need to, not eat ice cream every night. Well, I did that one night. I feel better. Like, okay, I can eat ice cream again next night. We do that with everything. I think one thing that's really magical though is understanding that for the most part, the families and the guys that make the commitment to this program is such a like time and money commitment. It's such a resource commitment, like your attention, probably the most valuable resource you have, that once you go through the program, it's never really the same. Like, you know what a manager looks like. It's not a secret anymore. You know what I mean? And the hope is, even if you do fall back into old habits, that the unmanageability becomes much more clear, much more quickly. So then there isn't as much like, years of destruction that were happening before you come to GT. And that's obviously not like my goal for everybody. My goal is everybody like to get through and get sober, stay sober, find happiness, families come together. But the reality is not everybody gets that. But I do think everybody gets this idea, like, manageability becomes like way quicker, way sooner. What do you guys think of that?
I've been hogging. David, take it away.
Davey,
no, you go for it, Lucas.
I was listening to a woman tell her recovery story last night at a meeting, and she was saying that in recovery, like 10 years deep, she got sober at like 24, and she's like, or maybe she's 6 years deep. She's like 30. No, maybe she was 10 years sober. It was deep into it, but she's like, stopped going to meetings, stopped doing the stuff she needed to do, and things got like pretty dark. And what I would say, how this ties into what you just said, Cole, is like, she had the tools, the know-how, and the knowledge to how to bounce back from that dark place because she had gotten away from it. She didn't totally lose that or forget it. She knew exactly how to tap back into it. And when she was ready and willing to tap back into it, she did it. Now, she did it without drinking or using or doing anything like that. But sometimes the person does drink or use, and then we need to figure out how to bounce back. And again, that's for the family to recognize the signs. Oh my gosh, my son needs support. My wife or husband needs support. How do I bounce back into this? Hold them accountable. Like, I know this. I've done the reps. Let's bounce back. But just making the point that sometimes that's using and drinking. Sometimes it's not. And they can look just as bad either way. Like, I've seen miserable sober people that are really just sober and don't have any recovery in their life at that point. They had recovery at some point, but they lost it. Yeah. And because they stopped doing the things they needed to do. And it's just as important for them to know how to bounce back as the person who does relapse, and just as important that the family knows how to support the bounce back as the guy knows how to enact it. I think it's all has its value there.
You just had another personal story of that the other day, calling one of our dear friends on the phone, and you suggested that he go back to some meetings, and he was like, dang, yeah. Like he knew what he needed to do. He just needed someone to nudge him in the right direction.
Yes. Yeah. A friend of mine that moved somewhere and been sober for a long time. But I was just like, man, so what are the meetings like out there? And I didn't mean it in any kind of way, like assuming that he hadn't gone. But he's in Arkansas. I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that. But so I was just like, what is 12-step meetings like in Arkansas? And he was like, bro, screw you. Why did you have to say that and ask that? I was like, oh, what do you mean? And he's like, well, now I have to go. And I know that I need to go. And I've been knowing I need to go. But someone had to say it. And now you said it. So now I have to go and figure it out and like see what they are, because I've made all these judgments about what they will be and what they could be and all that kind of stuff. But I got to just go and see it for myself and figure it out. And I like reminded him that I'm like, dude, that's where we like find our people, like we go to 12-step meetings and of the probably 1,000 people I've met in AA, or big mess up, 12-step. There's I try to be good about that. Pretend you didn't hear that. Just in 12-step, let's say even in recovery, like 10 of them are like ride or die, super, super good friends of mine that like lifelong could not talk to him for 3 years. Like this guy hadn't talked to in like 3 or 6 months, could catch up and pick up right where you left off. So it's like sometimes you do kind of got to weed through, even amongst the people I have so much in common with, to find those like 2 or 3. And I say that just to say that like if I move to an area, I'm not going to go to one meeting and then be like, well, nobody for me. I guess I'm done with this. It's like I'm probably going to do 90 and 90 again, to go to 90 different meetings in 90 days, really steep myself in, and probably in 90 days find my people, 2 or 3 of them that I could call, talk to, joke with, same sense of humor, understand the struggles, similar goals in life, who we want to be, what we want to be, and like just instantly have that. And I don't know anything else in life where you get that. And I think parents have it with the supporter 12-step meetings, that they can almost instantly find people have the same struggles, the same stuff, wanting to be better, want to be good for the person that they love and healthy and supportive in that way. And so it's just as available to them, but I think it's always kind of seen as just for the addict alcoholic and not as much for the family support. See, smirking Dave, dude, you're trying to hold it back.
Oh, no, all good stuff. No smirks.
Yeah, I was thinking about like what does the family do, right? So obviously there's options like Al-Anon. Some places have NAMI, which is like a National Alliance for Mental Illness, I think is what NAMI stands for. Here in Greenville, we have something called Favor. They do support groups that are oriented towards the family.
Therapy, just reaching out and getting a therapist of your own.
Bro, I don't know how people don't do it. Look, I know I am a therapist, so I'm very biased here, but I got 2 freaking therapists. I ain't scared to say it. I got like a couples therapist and my personal therapist. And I don't know how the heck people do it without it. Like I don't know. I think it's a responsible thing to do if you're in the helping industry, because you need to remember what, especially in the mental health industry, because you need to remember what it's like to be a client on the couch. I think that's super necessary. But dang, like it is so important just to be able to just talk that stuff out.
It is, but it's one of those things where you're only going to get as much out of it as you're willing to put into it.
Yeah.
Of like if you go into therapy and you feel like you have all the answers and no one can tell you differently, then don't waste your money.
Yeah.
But if you can go in there like with an open heart and be willing to admit that you have some things you need to work on, and maybe there's some trauma or you're doing some things wrong, then like by all means go try it. But
absolutely,
I do think that the biggest obstacle for a lot of people is themselves with therapy.
Yeah. I also think this is kind of like a little one outside the box is just think about like how kids in like high school, middle school, elementary school. They have all these little clubs. You know what I mean? There's like 4-H, there's football, there's band, there's the Glee Club for David. Like there's all these like little like clubs and places to connect with people. And dude, I found my people that way growing up. And I think it gets harder to do that as an adult, but like they're out there. Like if you always like love painting, like go take like a watercolor or like painting class. See if you meet some friends. You know what I mean? If you were like an athlete back in the day, like see if there's like a local like volleyball league or pickleball league. I think that's
like
another. Go ahead.
Do you feel like we're losing that as people. Like that's something I feel like maybe our parents were better at than us, and that we may be better at than the guys that are entering the program. But just with like technology, like, do you think people are getting more lonesome with technology and what you're able to do with that? That like they're not going to bridge groups like my mom is every Wednesday night and church groups on Sunday nights, and
I think
like
it's
she
a
has
person.
events all throughout the week.
No, I think it's a person thing. I mean, I can think of people who were like my grandparents' age or my parents' age who didn't do any of that stuff. You know, they were much more like stay at home and pretty like lonesome people, you know, more introverted by nature. I think it's there. And I even think about people who like play video games, like these kids these days, like all their video games, you know, like it's the reality is like a lot of them are playing with their friends. You know what I mean? Like they're playing with their friends and they're connecting and having fun on there, or they're just like upset, or the unhealthy side of it, they're just obsessively playing like Clash of Clans and spending all this money on it. It could go either way.
But it's not an in-person connection. So we could tie that to people who are using Chat GPT as their therapist.
That's true. But I kind of like a lot of stuff Chat GPT says. But I think it's
makes you always right. You're always right.
Well, I think Chat GPT is a good tool for like we were talking about the other day. It's like a good like search engine. You know, like, hey, I want to find out more information on blah blah blah. Give me a rundown of it. Okay, I'm gonna read more into this. But I don't think I need to have like a personal relationship with Chat GPT.
No, dude, you could be like, Chat GPT, I think life is just stupid. What's the point of this? And it'd be like, that was a great thought, Cole.
Yeah. It's really funny the amount of times I have clients come in. They're like, well, I've been talking to Chat GPT about this. Give me your thoughts on it. And I'm like, these are my favorite. Tell me what you've been saying to Chat GPT and what it's been saying. And then sometimes I'm like, yeah, that all checks out. Now, why are you not doing that thing? And they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh, now that's what we got to work on. You know, like Chat GPT can only take you so far right now.
Moving backwards real quick, I was looking for an excerpt from a book I'm reading with my schmonzer in Shmei, but it's called Fred Relates the Outlook of Two Shmei members. Don D went to a Shmei meeting one evening. He frowned when a member mispronounced a few words while reading How It Works. He felt appalled when another member stood up and said he was an alcoholic and an addict. Another person talked too long. As he slipped out the door immediately after the meeting, Don D muttered, "That was terrible. I should have stayed home." Bob M went to a meeting one evening. His head was bowed as he listened to the preamble on How It Works. His eyes moistened as he listened intently to a member tell his story. He was grateful for being able to attend this meeting. After cleanup and a little socializing, he paused, and as he locked the meeting room door, his thoughts were, "Thank God for such a beautiful fellowship." Both Shmei members were at the same meeting. Each found what he was looking for. And I think that's so true in therapy, in 12-step groups, in a sober living, like just in any institution that we go to spend time in. I just think our attitude has a lot to do with it. And we get out, I love the saying of we find what we're looking for, because sometimes I am looking for the negative, the justifications to not do it, the reasons why I'm not like these people and that this isn't a fit for me, rather than the opposite of like where I can find commonality, what we have in common, how I want to be like these people, what are the positive things. And I just get way more out of that when I do it than when I think my therapist is an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about, which is easy to do when he's telling me to do something hard that I don't want to do. If I can switch the framing to where he's like a bad guy who's just out to get me and doesn't know what he's talking about, then I can justify not listening to him, which is crazy when I just paid him $150 or whatever it is, you know. So it's kind of wild, but then that's where we can not have that buy-in with guys sometimes, because a lot of our guys, you know, it's with parent support, parents resources, they're coming to us with not a lot of buy-in on their end at times. So it's like, are you just gonna like waste this money? Like you know that all this like costs money and time and effort and all that, and when it's not their time, money, effort, you know, it's like, wow, I don't care. You know, my parents are the ones footing this bill, and I don't want to be here. So you hope to kind of get past that.
Well, and I think you do with time as the brain heals, and it's not in such like an irrational, vengeful place, which is where it usually is early in recovery. It's definitely there in active addiction. And then you just try to do like a lot of motivation work, you know, trying to get somebody to get from this like external place to internally. I go to the meeting not because I have to, the Shmei meeting, but I go because I know I'm gonna get something out of it. I have something to give, right? It's much more internally focused, you know. And so that's got to be a motivation too. We're sitting here like giving advice to parents of like, hey, go to an Al-Anon meeting, or hey, go to join like a local pickleball club or whatever. I don't know. Like, think about the internal part of it. Like, why would this be a good thing for me? You know, like, why? How could this actually serve me well? What do I have to give to some other people? You know, maybe they need a fourth person on their pickleball team. Maybe I have something to share with somebody that could be really helpful. When you start getting more in that mindset, I think you're starting to live out a lot of the virtues you want your kid to live out. You know, if you're a parent of somebody with an addiction. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's important to be well-rounded there with the ways you like don't feel alone.
To model it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think a lot of what we do at GT is trying to model healthy stuff, but also being like honest and accountable about, you know, the mistakes that we make or whatever it may be. You know, like, hey, in that talk we had the other day, I was just kind of burnt and being impatient. And I said this a little harsher than what I wanted to. And I'm sorry for that. That's not how I wanted it to come across. And I'm sorry for how that made you feel. Can we like redo that conversation just to see that like, okay, we can make mistakes too, and then model how to clean that up the best way possible. And then secondly, you said Al-Anon and it's Schmalishan.
Oh, Schmalisman? Schmalisman? Yeah. It's hilarious.
Well,
yeah.
I was just going to drive it back to the original question here or topic here. You know, and them saying that like it's tough when you leave GT, and I think that it's supposed to be. You know, I think it's supposed to be a little bit tougher when that change happens on the back end, but at least you both know what to do, and that there's continuous support out there for the son who graduated our program and for the parent who's graduated our program and still has that support group, still has therapists out there, Al-Anon out there, Schmalishman out there, all the things. And I like what Lucas said about the woman who he heard telling her story, and like she had a mishap, but she knew what to do when she was ready to do it. And I tell that to a lot of families when they're calling in on the front end of like, oh, we've tried 3 different 30-day treatments, and Greenville transitions is such a big commitment. Like, what's to say I'm not going to have to do this several times? And I love to say you don't have to. I don't think much ever happens in 30 days, but if you do it right the first time, like the tools will be given to your family and your son to where you don't have to do it again. And even if they decide to slip up, they'll know what to do when they need to do it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, largely. I think if held accountable to do it.
Yes.
And like, that's the thing is I think just when my rent's due and I can't pay it and the girlfriend just broke up with me and the job just fired me, I'm going to run towards calling mom and dad to say, hey, bail me out. I'll go to treatment. I'll go to sober living. And we see that with some of our guys that like sober living is the parachute out of more the consequences of addiction than addiction. And so it's like, let me just get the girlfriend back, the money in my pocket, a vehicle back that I pawned, whatever. And addiction is kind of recovery is kind of the transactional tool I use to get that stuff from my parents until I can be comfortable enough that like, well, I got $3,000 in the bank, a girlfriend, whatever. I think now when I go back to using or drinking, it's going to be different and better because I've got the resources to do it again. You can just kind of see that repetitive nature. So I think that the guy we work with will do that forever. And I think the change is always when the parents say, I'm done doing this. I'm not doing this cycle again. You know what to do. You know how to do it. It's time that you do it and consistently long term.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with both of that. Both y'all's statements. I have something else I want to say too about the
Say it.
All right. With all right, with it being tough once you get down with GT. Look, it was tough when you were at GT. We maybe forget that. Like, it is hard work. It's hard work trying to like make these changes, having these conversations. You know, you may feel more supportive. You may not. It goes back to like the two guys at the Shmay meeting. Like they got like not all families and guys report the same experience because different things that happen. So all that to say, it was hard and tough before you got here. It was tough while you were here, and now it's tough again. Being tough is just a constant. You know, that's just the reality of life, unfortunately. There is also like other balances with that. And there were happy moments before people come to GT. There are happy moments while at GT. There are happy moments even now. So I think the unknown is scary, you know, but I say all that to say that's more of the fear of the unknown as opposed to the presence of toughness, the presence of difficulty. It's always going to be there. This is just a new frontier of sorts, but you have conquered it before. You know, every day you've gotten through it, and you can and will keep getting through it, you know. So I say that's like an encouraging thing, an encouraging message. Just what I want to say. Dave, will you do your impression of your daughter for us on screen?
No.
Dang
No, I'm not doing that. Not on a recording. It's going to be out there forever if I do that.
She might see it one day, dude.
Yeah, she probably
That's how we
will.
find out if she's got.
Dude, I thought about that the other night. Of like, I'm going to have so much stuff that's just out there on the internet that my daughter could just Google my name and see whatever I could see all the content.
It's good stuff, dude.
Yeah. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of scary.
You can go take a vacation.
My dad was a loser.
Nah, I think you should parlay this and go take a vacation to Tahiti and be like, just watch YouTube videos of me till I get back. You know what I mean?
And dude, also, I mean, you know, it could be OnlyFans content that your daughter's looking up one day. So I'm glad. I'm just saying, I'm glad it's YouTube content of you talking about like how people get better with recovery and how to do it. It may be corny. And
man, we don't know what David does,
and easy to make fun of, but there's a lot.
Yeah, who's to say I'm not on OnlyFans, dude?
Yeah.
There's a lot rougher content to have out there. One more thing on something I think you were just saying, Cole, and I think it can be a little bit dark, but I do think I find more upliftment, if that's a word, and like hope out of it than I do the darkness. But I think that if at GT guys come to us off the rails and, you know, they get themselves largely back on the rails, but like you had said, David, with the support of a village. So like once we know that's theoretically possible, even if they get off the rails again, we know that they can get back on the rails, and we know exactly how to do it. Like the roadmap is drawn. And so it makes me think about our state slogan in South Carolina, which is Dum Spiro Spero, which is Latin for while I breathe, I hope. And that's largely like my feelings around addiction, is that once a guy does know how to get better, so long as they breathe, I have hope that they can always get back on the rails, even if they fall off, you know. And that's the reality in my experience of addiction, is that some people don't make it. And obviously at that point it's over. But for anyone that doesn't get to that point, as long as they're breathing, there's some ability for them to get back on the rails and get a life together that they can be happy and proud of.
Yeah, and that's
good stuff.
That goes for the family too. Like this, you know, when you talk to parents in particular, like they'll say a lot of the same things. Like I can barely recognize myself. You know, guys will say that, like, or people who struggle, like I could barely recognize myself. I lost so much weight or gained so much weight, or I was like, you know, bags under my eyes. I looked rough. Like I barely recognize myself. Parents will say the same thing. You know, I could like hear myself screaming at my son, and it didn't even feel like it was my voice. You know, like so it's a heavy thing that they're recovering from. You know what I mean? And like finding themselves again. And it's the same thing with what you said. Like while they draw breath, they still like hope for getting better and paying it forward. And we unfortunately like know a few parents who have like lost sons to this disease, and all those parents like are trying to pay it forward still. And it's like super inspiring. Like, you know, my son may not be drawing breath anymore in the physical sense, but I want to honor his legacy and honor like what he went through. So like while I breathe at the parents, like I'm going to still try to like help and still try to like have hope. And that's one of the other like really like sad sad, but like grateful things we experience here. I would say it's like seeing that human spirit come through.
Yeah.
You know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, didn't mean to make it so heavy, but it's a heavy subject.
Yeah, it is. Well, do y'all have anything else on the
Nope.
topic of leaving GT? We say everything we wanted to say.
I still want that impersonation. Impression.
You're not getting it. I
If
do
you
have
if you
two
can't
other-
say the word, you don't get it, dude.
I don't even know. Is it impression or is it impersonation?
That
I don't know
impression, the impressionation.
which one is it? Is it
It's
impression?
It's impressionation, dude. Say it
Yeah.
as often as you can in front of as many people.
Impressionation. They've all done impression. This is what it was like right here. You want me to do it? The fingers are important.
No, don't do it. I do have two things. One, which I think could have been a good topic. It was one thing I was going to bring up today if we didn't have a topic. But my mother-in-law asked me, because we went and stayed
David,
with mom.
confidentiality, dude.
What?
Chill.
What?
Don't be divulging who asked these questions and stuff.
No. Well, we went and stayed with her over the weekend because we had an ice storm. She had a generator. We weren't sure. So we were staying with her. She asked me this question. Now that I have a new daughter, she was like, so have you thought about how you're going to handle it if your daughter wants to drink, or like say she wants to drink before 21, or like say you start to see that there are some tendencies, like alcoholic tendencies? Are there things that you would do differently to like help guide her in a different direction? And I thought that would be a good topic for us all to talk through. What's so funny?
I just don't know if you know that we're still recording.
No, I do know that. What does it matter?
Are we still on the podcast? Or are we
Yeah.
done?
Dude, we're on, dude.
Yeah.
He's teasing the next episode, Lucas.
Yeah.
This is like next up.
Yeah, I
Next
thought
on.
it could be. That was a topic I was going to bring today in case. And I know it's something you have thought about too before, Lucas. Of
Yes.
what if you passed things on to your kids?
Yep.
Hey, check out episode 309, interview with Lucas and Logan, and they talk about this, dude. They talk about this as a couple. Actually, I don't know what episode it was, but it was a few episodes ago. Lucas and Logan, they talked about this.
Okay. Anyway, scratch.
I
that.
like
I
it.
have one other thing I want to share.
I
with you
think we
guys.
should talk about this. I think we should talk about all our parenting stuff and how our way is the right way. I think we should definitely discuss that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Other cool, quick thing.
Okay.
Is
What you
that-
got?
I guess it's because I'm having these like little short bursts of sleep right now with a newborn, where it's like maybe I get an hour, maybe I get two, maybe I get three, but I'm having extremely vivid dreams, like crazy vivid. Last night, I had such a vivid dream about our podcast. And- No, it was so cool, dude. I thought it was cool. I thought it was awesome. You guys might think it's not.
Let's hear it.
But so it was called The Attic. So a play on addict. But we were filming in like an old dusty, what was clearly an attic of a home with like some suitcases in the background, but it was like a bunch of old 90s gear, like a Pac-Man machine that had a clear tarp over it, but it was running and you could tell like the lights were flashing behind the clear plastic. Dude, it was the coolest podcast setup and name. And I thought it's going to be my life goal to recreate that.
And we're just sitting holding our mics. We're on like little like boxes. We're on like
Dude, yeah, it was like we were
wooden
sitting on an old
boxes.
suitcase and mics were dropped down. It was pretty cool. I thought it was cool.
Lucas, thoughts on how cool that was?
I like it. You'd have to make it into a set, not a
Yeah,
I don't think you'd go in an attic and try to do it up there. But if you made
No.
a set for it,
I got the perfect attic for it, guys. I got the perfect attic. It looked just like that. It's not a set though. It looks exactly how David's describing.
old GI Joes, Lego.
I got old
like
Star
cool 90s.
Wars. I got Star
Done.
Wars stuff up there, dude. I got
we go. Now we're cooking.
I got all kind of stuff up there actually. Yeah.
All right, cool. That's it. I just wanted to share my dream with you guys and potentially another episode's topic.
I want to hear more about these dreams after when we're not recording. I bet you got some funny ones. Oh Lord.
Yeah, they're kind of wacky. All right, but that's it for today.
Yeah.
done?
All right. Goodbye. Everybody doing great. You're all
We're
doing
done.
great.